Hey, it's Nathan. Welcome to another special double episode from the Health Conference. Each one of these episodes is launching Monday and Thursday and will feature conversations, with two different CEOs. So, welcome, listen in.
This is ultimately about something that is very fundamentally available to everybody. It's cheap. It's covered by insurance. We can all do it these days. There's no reason why anybody living with a chronic condition at home has to feel that lonely anymore. That's Glove.
There's no reason that a patient at home should be isolated and lonely. Like, we have the tools to provide better care. Fantastic. Hello and welcome to the Health Tech Glow Up. I'm Nathan C., and today I'm talking with Oren Nissim of Brook Health. Oren, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. So, Oren, could you introduce yourself and a little bit of what you do at Brook Health?
Sure. We're Brook Health, and we do remote care for people with chronic conditions. We work as part of the health system, so we primarily work with providers, mostly primary care, taking care of people with diabetes, hypertension, CHF, COPD, multi-chronics at home, and extending primary care to the home, essentially.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit about your role at Brook Health as well.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO. Grew a life as a patient, so I have a complicated version of type 2 diabetes myself, which I guess got me to be more intertwined in it, and at some point decided to stop complaining and do something about it instead.
Oh my gosh. That is like the classic founder story, right? Like, noticed a problem and just had to go fix it for yourself. Could you actually dive in to that origin story? I'm curious. How did you make the decision to take this entrepreneurial step?
I was very involved in the worlds of Wearable and the ideas behind the fact that we today are wearing and carrying with us a lot of devices that all translate a lot of information very ambiently. And the idea is that we don't need to actually ask a lot of questions in order to just understand what's going on. So we could very easily come into a if this, then that. And so that has been the beginning of the idea, and from that on it evolved.
Amazing. I find a lot of times, especially as the general public is coming up against ideas about artificial intelligence, right? What do I even do with it, right? You see the videos of Sora AI making quirky, I'm writing a rhinoceros video. And if that's what AI does, like, how does it affect me? I'm a nurse, right? Like, I don't make rhino videos. Can you talk a little bit? A lot of tools are using AI, talking about predictive, talking about ways that we can get ahead of health outcomes before there's a problem. How do you approach this and the use of AI in your work at Brook?
Sure. So we track a lot of information and we analyze a lot of data in the background. That allows us to understand anomalies, understand if a person has these particular conditions, what are we actually looking for, what is the behavior that we would like to see, and then what are those gaps. I think the biggest problem that comes up, and I think you see it in the show a lot, there's lots of technology available, lots of technology. And there is lots of people that will sell all sorts of things. And the key question is really what I like to describe as the accountability gap. At the end of the day, you are a consumer who bought XYZ and you have it, and now you're feeling empowered, and all of a sudden you got these signals, but you don't want to be your own doctor, and you don't necessarily want to be Google your doctor either, or ChatGPT now, the new thing. So how do you actually close that gap, which is where a lot of this now needs to be brought back in somehow into the care system, but not as noise, because it's just a huge amount of noise, but actually as signal. And what is the signal that we can actually work on? So I think AI, a first use case is in order to decipher noise for signal, and then be able to bring it into, as long as we're not willing to give up the job of trusting a provider, which I don't think we're that close to doing, be able to do it in such a way that is meaningful to a provider and actually cut away on their time, as opposed to adding one more thing on the time. We as a company have invested a lot of work into how to do that better, because I think that's the main failure point with all this technology available.
And I'm super curious about that. What is your primary way that you like to give time back to doctors? How do you achieve that?
We collect probably thousands of data points a day from every single one of our patients. And the reality is that just sifting through that is a huge amount of pain. AI is then able to ultimately compare this with what is the baseline, what are we actually looking for, and where are those anomalies. On those anomalies, we have essentially a care team that will do the first level of analysis to ultimately bring it to the provider on the, hey, here's the next medical decision for you to actually make, as opposed to here's just a huge amount of data, go read it, and here's a few summary notes. We want to get very quickly into the, given this, here is the recommendation on that. What would you like to decide on as the medical professional?
And it sounds like there's the AI layer, and then there's also that human layer that's doing that additional validation and research, presenting those opportunities. So that's happening in the background as the provider might be doing other tasks, reviewing the records. And so isn't just taking things off of their plate, but potentially working in the background, working when they're not necessarily, so that the care is always on, regardless of the practitioner.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately it's about how do you actually create guardrails for this approach? Because the reality is that we all feel like we're not willing to hand the keys just yet, maybe over a period of time. And then who can be in the middle? But at the same time, how do you make that efficient? You can train health teams to do more, but that means you're essentially, again, adding up more time as opposed to taking time away. So how to create it in a supervised fashion, a very safe environment, so that people can really trust what they're seeing. And that, I think, is a lot of that inner work that we have to do these days.
Amazing. Awesome. So moving on to some of the more branded questions. The show is the Health Tech Glow Up. And let's start at the industry level. I'm curious, what is the health glow up that you want to see for this industry?
What I want to see is people not buying the tech for the tech. And I'm saying it as a tech entrepreneur. This is not about the widget. It's about what are you actually going to do with it? So it's about the use case. And I think Glow Up here is about the fact that I see a lot of people coming in and saying, I get what you can do. How does that actually make it more useful to me? And essentially forcing the industry to come back and say, we worked out the use case to the point that we're not just adding more time and adding more costs. We're actually trying to deliver an ROI. But assuming these new tools are in place. One of the cool examples that you can see right now is in the scribe world, whereby we used to use humans. Now you can use machines. Okay, but how does that flow actually integrate well such that we don't need to then re-review this? We can actually trust this. And this is where it's that next level. It's not exactly, you can't just use AI to summarize. You gotta make sure that it does it well and to the fact that it's actually useful.
Thank you for that. So the next question takes the glow up a little bit more personal, a little bit closer to home. What's the glow up, Oren, that you're looking to make and that you're looking to make for Brook Health?
Thanks. We've been on a mission for a long period of time. I started this with a mission, which is that people living life with multiple chronic conditions at home, we need some level of agency. Ultimately, this is about how do we use these tools that are at our disposal to basically get better agency in what we do, and how can we bridge that gap with a provider that we trust, but have something in the middle that can help us. For me, this is ultimately about something that is very fundamentally available to everybody. It's cheap. It's covered by insurance. We can all do it these days. There's no reason why anybody living with a chronic condition at home has to feel that lonely anymore. That's Glow Up.
There's no reason that a patient at home should be isolated and lonely. Like, we have the tools to provide better care. Fantastic. No pressure on this one, but social media loves a good hot take. Do you have a healthcare hot take, a spicy opinion that you want to share about the industry?
I would pay close attention to what's happening with Medicare Advantage and some people walking away from it, some people walking into it. And I think that's going to be an interesting next few months.
Interesting. I love it. Oren Nissim, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you for sharing about your AI-powered insights and a tool that is clearing all of the information away so you don't just have signal, but you actually have data. Thank you so much for visiting with us on the Health Tech Glow Up. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Amazing. 1, 2, 3. See? I am the worst. Hello and welcome to the Health Tech Glow Up. I'm Nathan C., and today I'm talking with Tim O'Connell of Emtelligent. Tim, thank you so much for joining me today on the Health Tech Glow Up.
Thanks, Nathan.
You have a pretty fantastic smile for this late in the health event. Thanks for joining me early on day 3. How's your health been?
Health has been great. I love health. It's one of my favorite healthcare conferences. I think it's just got a great vibe, and I spend a lot of time in dark rooms in hospitals, and I appreciate, we need more unicorns in hospitals.
Yes, I love it.
Sure.
And the work that you do at Intelligent?
I'm a practicing radiologist. I work clinically 1 to 2 days a week. I'm also CEO of a 9-year-old startup called Emtelligent. We're a medical language AI company. So we do a couple things, primarily large-scale data extraction from clinical notes, and we also do AI-assisted chart review.
I stopped by your booth a little bit earlier today, and I was looking at some of the materials, and it seems like your approach to AI isn't maybe the same approach that you might see with a lot of other folks who are talking about AI and health records. Can you kind of explain your differentiator there?
Sure. So it's a company that does large-scale data extraction. We work with a lot of people across the healthcare spectrum. So it can be producers of notes like health systems, or it can be consumers and users of that data like payers and life sciences companies. And what they often have a problem is they'll often be like, we have several billion clinical documents that we need processed. And there'll obviously be a lot of data there. So we've been spending years making our software so it can really extract the meaning and coded data from very large volumes of data and do it very quickly and efficiently and at a cost that works for our customers. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are now using the ultimate software development kit. They're using a large language model, right? And there's all kinds of problems with that from like a cost and scaling and accuracy perspective when you really start dealing with large volumes of data.
Got it.
So we love LLMs. We use them for all kinds of things. But for the core of what we do, we make our own language models to be able to do large scale data extraction.
Okay. And you've been doing it for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just a 2022.
We started the company back in 2016, really during the sort of the deep learning, machine learning boom and not knowing what was coming next. But you know what? It's been great. The market has changed and everyone wants AI now and recognizes the value it can bring. So yeah, it's been a great year for us.
One of the big themes that I've heard this year was like very specifically AI, but assisted with a human, right? Like there's some kind of co-pilot, there's some kind of ride along, there's some kind of. So I'm glad to hear it. I think it's that level of user experience that people and trust, right? That people are ready for. One of the questions I am always interested to ask in this sort of age of AI applications is like trust and identity start to get really messy. Some of the first stuff we're seeing is like deep fakes and there's even like social media networks dedicated to content that's imagined. And so what's real, what's truth? Are these actually experts? Do you have a perspective on trust and safety?
The way we've built our software, and it's always been like this, has been if we're extracting something from a clinical note, let's say it's a report and it says that you've got appendicitis, we're really big on going, this was the term we found in the report. Here's where it started and ended in the report. When we're doing review for humans to look at our output, we're always like, here's the sentence it came from. Here's the part of the section of the report it came from, to really be very sort of deterministic and reliable and be able to give people all the data they need. And then in our AI assisted chart review package, it really has like a multi-pane view where, because you can always have problems with, for example, like optical character recognition of a fax or a table or colored background. So we're always like, here's the text we extracted and here's the source document side by side.
Yeah.
So that the person doing the adjudication can really always get back to the source.
Do you track those click-throughs into those additional sources?
Not yet. That's not really something our customers have sort of required. And
I find it's an interesting data point to follow on to that. Like we have the resources. Are they actually being used? Is like, I'll just document
I like
that on a user side. Sorry to be pushing on your product.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's something I ask everyone just because I've been very curious. I always like to ask about the origin story, and you definitely started with a little bit of your professional practice. But I'm curious, like, not all radiologists start a business, start a tech startup, start working in AI. Like, can you talk a little bit about what inspired that bridge?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a fellowship in emergency and trauma radiology and in imaging informatics back in 2012, 2013. And I met a team of an open source medical natural language processing software package called CTAKES. It's a great piece of software. And I was back at work at the hospital I worked at. And in radiology, particularly in emergency radiology, we don't get great histories from our emerge docs. We might get a history that just says rule out trauma. And we're sort of like, well, that's, I'll look at the x-ray, but that doesn't give me a whole lot to go on. Or I'll read the CT scan and I can assume it's trauma. So what I needed a decent patient history. And so I used this open source medical NLP software. We processed some radiology reports. I wrote an app. I integrated it with our radiology package so you could just click on a button and see the patient history.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was that the medical NLP software really wasn't accurate enough that we could trust the output. And so around that time, I met one of my co-founders, Dr. Anup Sarkar, a lifetime machine learning researcher. And he was like, oh yeah, that's a huge problem. My accuracy is really hard. And so we really hit it off personally and professionally. And with a couple other guys, we ended up starting Emtelligent. So really the goal was just if we can get at what's in those clinical notes, we can solve so many problems in healthcare.
The frustrated doctor as a founder is like very much a theme from this year's interview. There's a very interesting connection between those who are working with data and informatics. And I was literally digging in this morning and I was like, what is the informatics to founder pipeline? Because there's something about when your work is based in data, it can feel like a tool in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
So awesome. Let's get back to some of the theme of the reason why we're here.
Sure.
At Health. As one of the larger events for healthcare technology, it's a great place to kind of connect with the pulse and share ideas back to the community. A glow up is a notable transformation, like a rebirth. I'm curious, is there a glow up or a notable goal that you have for the healthcare, the health tech industry at large? Would you like to see us go?
I would love to see. Years ago, I watched a documentary and it was talking about someone who worked at Ford Motor Company after World War II. And he was saying that they used to pay their invoices by weighing them, right? So we've got about a pound of paper here from U.S. Steel. Let's cut them a check for $1 million and see if that covers it. I feel like in healthcare today, we're sort of at that level of healthcare analytics. We need better data. And so that's what I'm really passionate about, is getting people the data they need, no matter what their role is in healthcare, from those unstructured notes, right? We have clinicians, doctors, and nurses, all sorts of allied health professionals who spend so much time documenting important stuff about our patients, and yet we can't use that data. So that's the transformation I want to see.
Yeah. Just thinking back to like recent times when family was in the hospital, the frequency that like you'd have to give kind of a whole history of like why we're here. Like basically every professional needed to do the same interview so that they felt they had the notes they needed.
Right. Yeah.
And like, which made it great if they were on shift for a few days in a row, right? But it was hard if they were only there for a few hours at a time. So.
Very hard, right? That's a great way we could help improve the patient experience, right?
Amazing. So thank you for that. And for Emtelligent, let's take it in a little bit. What are the goals?
So the 6-month goal up, I think right now is we've got 2025. If 2024 and 2023 were years of experimentation with the healthcare industry, 2025 is like the year of implementation. So we've done a really large number of pilots in the last 6 to 8 weeks even. That pilots always take like a couple months of legal and this sort of stuff to even start before someone even sends you data, because it can always contain PHI and that sort of thing. So we've done a huge number of pilots and we have a huge number still to go. And really the glow up I want to see it is those pilots moving to implementations.
Amazing. And congrats. That's like hard earned. If you could be even a general answer to this, it's amazing. There's a lot of folks in like the deep tech world that I work in that believe that healthcare, that their solution has a healthcare use case. And often they're looking for those first pilots. And so when you're talking about a lot of work and planning and time and partnerships goes into it, is there like some broad generalizations? Like, is there a sort of a rule that you keep for like, well, a partnership takes 4 months, takes 7 months? How much does it take to do a partnership in healthcare?
You know, it really depends on the customer. And when you're dealing with like large mega corp kind of customers, getting through contracting can be 6 to 8 months.
Just on the contract.
Contracting. That's the paperwork part.
After you know what you want
After
to
you
do.
know, it's not me complaining about it. When you're working with, say, startups, they tend to be far more agile and can work a whole lot faster. We've been really trying to optimize our processes for that, like working with legal counsel to simplify contracts and doing all these things. Oftentimes, as part of the pilot process, customers will come back and go, oh, like, well, you know, you made some assumptions here and they weren't all correct, right? And we're like, yeah, you're absolutely right, we did. Because we didn't want to spend a week in planning before we got you stuff. We wanted to get you some data and iterate on that.
Thank you. That's the way you do it.
Yeah.
Start small.
Yeah, exactly.
Start in one building, not 4. Amazing. We're still on the thematic questions.
Yeah.
Heroes and legends is the theme of Health 2025. I use this as an opportunity to ask people about the heroes, legends, and mentors that have guided their journey in entrepreneurism. How have mentors and legends in this space impacted your journey?
I've been so lucky to have so many great mentors in healthcare and engineering. If I had to provide a shout out to any mentor, one of them would be a wonderful cardiac electrophysiologist I worked with as a medical student, a great guy named Dr. Paul Dorian at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto.
Amazing.
He was an incredible mentor to me. He was trying to solve complex physiology problems and just allowed me to use curiosity and hard work to try and solve problems with him for a couple different summers doing research. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just such a positive, overwhelmingly positive experience.
One of the reasons why I really like that question is because the power of somebody saying, I believe you, keep trying, keep going,
Keep trying.
is like so powerful. And like to start with someone who's like, be curious,
Yeah.
go learn,
Right.
is like,
Yeah.
oh, what a gift.
Right.
Amazing. Last question is totally optional, but do you have a spicy healthcare hot take?
Not so much for healthcare. I'm a little bit worried about AI right now. We're starting to see something called vendor financing, where people who sell stuff are loaning money to people who want to buy stuff. But during the internet boom, I worked for a company called Nortel Networks. I was a network engineer, and it was an amazing place to work. But that company got into trouble by doing vendor financing. And that can be a sign that there's a bubble going on. And I'm worried about that. So I don't think it's going to, the bubbles happen. We know that. Bubbles burst. We know that. For what we do, nothing has really changed other than a lot of customer interest with the AI ramp up. So, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, but I'm just worried.
As a leader who's been through a bubble or so, do you have a strategy or advice for how to approach it? Or how do you approach the possibility of disruption?
The worst part I saw about the internet boom, was there are so many wonderful people that I worked with at Nortel, and they have their life savings in stock in that company. And I think a lot of people got hurt. And so I would say, no matter how good your own hype is, always expect that externalities can happen.
Yep.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Tim, it has been such a great time chatting with you on the Health Tech Loa. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got one last thing to do.
All right.
We're going to clap it out.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.